Hey, I'm Robert Johnson. I'm an avid outdoorsman, a fly fisherman, and an advocate for protecting the San Francisco Bay Delta estuary. I'm calling the attention of all anglers, bass fishermen, salmon fishermen, gear fishermen, fly fishermen, all fishermen, to the Assembly Bill 1253, AB 1253, proposed by Gene Fuller, Republican of Fresno, which seeks to delist striper as a game fish. And that means they can be sold, and it specifically says they can be sold, commercially harvested, etc. So right now we already have a problem with commercial harvest. Illegal commercial poaching happens routinely throughout the Delta and the river systems that feed the Delta. Striped bass are already at historic lows. They can't tolerate being delisted as a game fish. Make no mistake, they'll be eradicated from the San Francisco Bay, from the Pacific Ocean, and the rivers that feed the Bay Delta estuary.
Hi, I'm Captain Mike Costello, fly fishing guide on the California Delta. I spend about 270 days a year guiding waters throughout Northern California and spend most of my time out here chasing striped bass and largemouth bass out on this wonderful estuary. The striped bass for me is become a staple as I use it to support my family, my wife and son. I make my living as a guide. You know, I'm hopeful that my son someday can come out here and take his boat out and take customers out on the water and get them into striped bass like I've been able to do. It's one of the most enjoyable things that I'm able to do. I feel very fortunate and lucky to be able to do the job that I've been doing for over 20 years.
Also, I want to call out largemouth bass, pro bass fishermen and recreational bass fishermen. There are several letters by several politicians to the Department of Fish and Game specifically calling out black bass, in addition to stripers, as predators of Delta smelt and salmon. So the largemouth bass fishing industry needs to watch out because they're next.
Hi, my name is Gene Buchholz. I'm a professional bass angler and I also own one of the largest tackle shops on the California Delta, the Hook, Line, and Sinker. We host over 65 major bass tournaments a year, including kids derbies for striped bass, and we also have the California Striped Bass Association derbies with us. I'm here to talk to you about the California AB 1253 bill. It's one of the worst bills that you could ever imagine, and it's all about the Central Valley farmers getting their water. They're double dipping, and they're gonna destroy one of the main fisheries in the entire world. It's taken us many years to get what we have today. We have Bassmasters, FLW, and other tournament organizations, as well as people coming from Japan to fish out here because of what it is. Please vote against it.
Hi, I'm Bobby Barrick, professional angler and California Delta fishing guide. You know, out here on the California Delta, we have a tremendous amount of recreation fishermen who fish for striped bass, black bass, catfish, bluegill, a lot of different species of fish out here. And there's a bill right now in the Assembly, AB 1253, that really needs to be defeated because they're going right after the striped bass. And there's a tremendous amount of people right here in Contra Costa County and all throughout the state that the striped bass is their passion fish. And it's an explosive fish, it's a wonderful fish to catch, it's exciting. A lot of people go all the way to Brazil, halfway around the world, to get the type of action that they can get right here on the California Delta from that particular species of fish. Assembly Bill 1253 mentioned the striped bass as a predatory fish preying on the Delta smelt, and by extension they're also mentioning the largemouth bass. We as anglers, as fishermen, guys that are out here all the time, we know that the stripers and the black bass are not the reason that those Delta smelt are disappearing as quickly as they are. Water diversion is the #1 deal, okay? Nobody wants the truth. I'm telling you the truth right now.
Fishermen, the real agenda here is to continue increased exports of water beyond 6 million acre feet. They're proposing the peripheral canal, which might be a good thing if we decommission or cut back the capacity of the state and Central Valley water pumps. But if we have the continued pumping operations that are already taking too much water out of the Delta, and you throw on the peripheral canal, what do you guys think? They're just going to take more water. The Delta can't sustain the levels that have been exported out of the water. There's a fine balance. So what's the real goal of the water companies, Westlands and Kern Water Board, who are the backers and sponsors of this bill? The goal is to basically silence, ultimately, vocal opposition. That's the fishing groups. When you get rid of salmon, which are at historic lows, get rid of stripers, You got rid of most of the vocal opposition. So that's what this is all about. It's about water exports. Between 2003 and 2007, we had peak water exports out of the Delta. Over 6 million acre feet. At the same time, we've seen a collapse in all fish species, native fish in the Delta and game fish. Salmon, steelhead, and striped bass are at historic lows. This is about water. Fish need water, and we need to have a subsistence level of water in the Delta to maintain an active fishery. There are other ways to manage our state's water resources. We can free up more water than has ever been exported, more than 6 million acre feet a year annually on a sustainable basis by investing federal stimulus money in groundwater basin enhancement, groundwater storage, water efficiency measures both in urban and agriculture, and all that is coming up in other proposed legislations. I encourage you guys to not get distracted. This is not a north versus south issue. There's plenty of water for Los Angeles and other municipalities. 80% of the water exported from the Delta is used in the Central Valley by ag business, so it is not a north versus south issue.
Delta smelt, stripers, largemouth bass, salmon, all those different species of fish are at their all-time lows right now. The only thing that's really changed through the last 100 years or so is the amount of fresh water that we have in this river system. This place is built on its own little set of checks and balances. We've got San Francisco pushing salt water in. We got the Feather, the American, the Cosumnes, the Sacramento rivers, where that fresh water's coming down. It's got its own, it's taking care of itself. But the more of that fresh water that you keep pulling down towards Fresno, Bakersfield, it allows that water to creep back up through the San Francisco area and filtrate into the Delta system, and it changes the whole ecosystem. And everything was fine until they started pulling more and more and more cubic feet per second out of this place. It cannot survive at this rate, and especially with what they're talking about doing next. At the end of this short film, I urge you to get involved with this thing. Sign the petition, find out where the next meeting's gonna be, and get in it. We've got to crush this thing right now, as soon as we possibly can.
So, water exports are mostly responsible. Make no mistake, striped bass are not responsible for the decline of salmon and smelt. They've been in the Delta estuary for 130 years. They have risen and fallen in lockstep, basically, with salmon and other species. Striped bass have been on the East Coast and coexisted with Atlantic salmon for hundreds of years. This is bogus. There's no science to it. The science is on our side, the fisherman's side.
Anglers, we need you to get involved right now to save this wonderful fishery, to keep striped bass as well as salmon thriving in its waters. I urge you to go to the meeting and sign the petition.
We need you to make note of where the committee hearings are. They're in Sacramento at the Water Parks and Wildlife Committee on April 28th. And you need to sign the petition.